and gentlemen, please stand to welcome the arrival of Yang Berhormat Senator Tengku Datuk Seri Utama Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and esteemed colleagues, we are truly privileged to have with us a luminary in the field of finance and economics, someone whose leadership and vision have greatly contributed to the economic landscape of Malaysia. YB Minister is a prominent figure in Malaysia economic landscape, currently serving as the Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry. His contributions are well recognized, particularly during his tenure as Malaysia Minister of Finance from 2020 to 2022, where he navigated the nation through the fiscal challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. With an impressive career spanning over 22 years in the financial services sector, YB Tengku Zafrul's expertise and leadership have been instrumental in various esteemed institutions. Notably, he served as a Group CEO and Executive Director of CIMB Group Holdings Berhad, where he demonstrated exceptional leadership and strategic vision. As the current Minister of MITI, YB Tengku Zafrul focuses on promoting exports, attracting investment and empowering industries. His efforts extend globally as evidenced by his trade and investment missions to key nations, fostering economic ties and potential export worth billions of ringgit. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to invite to the stage our esteemed guest and keynote speaker, Yang Berhormat Minister Tengku Zafrul.
Thank you. Dr. Omar Swift, CEO of Bursa, Jim Ling, CEO of Hong Leong Investment Bank. First of all, Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon. Thank you for having me again. In fact, this is my second time to Bursa in the space of 1 week, but different rooms though. One was to speak about ESG in industries, an initiative by Bursa and a few other banks. But, you know, I've also, actually today, instead of bore you with another speech, I thought I'd do a short presentation about the topic today, which is on the National Semiconductor Strategy. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The slide. This is the introduction. So as you all know, that today is an important so-called spot, or we are at where the world is undergoing a technological revolution. And at the heart of all this actually lies something very small, which is the semiconductor. So these chips are the building blocks of our modern lives, and in fact it is, you know, from your handphone to your kettle to whatever you use today, yeah? Even the toys that our children play with all have chips indeed. So indeed, semiconductors have overtaken oil in terms of strategic importance. So much like how oil has fueled a virtuous cycle of industrial innovation and economic development in the 20th century, semiconductor now are at the heart of the 21st century technological innovation and disruptions. So today, as you know, the semiconductor industry influences the global supply chain. So we've seen the realignment, the redefining of supply chains. And in recent years, semiconductors actually have also dictated geopolitics, a role once dominated by oil. So as Malaysia becomes increasingly competitive in securing supply lines for the industry, the strategic importance of the semiconductor industry continues to grow. So next slide. So this is just to talk to you, 50 years of E&E track record. I think Dr. Sri Wong have seen this before, right? For decades, actually, Malaysia has held a prominent position in the global semiconductor industry. We were once dubbed as Silicon Valley of the East, particularly in the back-end manufacturing, which is the assembly, test, and packaging. Our commitment to the industry, to the E&E industry, has attracted numerous MNCs, therefore enabling local companies as well to integrate into the global value chain. So this picture here shows in 1972, Intel opened its first overseas production facility in Malaysia, marking the beginning of our semiconductor industry. If you can see from the photo here, the facility was built on what was once a muddy paddy field. So it's clear that this is actually the car of the future Intel CEO, Andy Grove. So he later on became the Intel, correct, right, Dr. Sri Wong? He later became the CEO of Intel, getting stuck in the mud during a monsoon season visit. Subsequently, you can see from that on the right side, many MNCs follow suit, including AMD, Hitachi, Clarion, Bosch, Electronics, now I think it's called Osram. Over time, other significant players like Micron and Infineon also chose Malaysia for their operations. So in the process, Malaysia has also successfully developed its own semiconductor companies. This is because over the past 50 years, Malaysia has built a solid foundation for a thriving semiconductor ecosystem. I'm sure many of these homegrown firms are within our analyst coverage. They are all listed in Bursa. Dr. Omar Swift will know this. Companies like Inari, Emerton, Vitrox, Opstar, Skychip, and Panmaster have grown to become key players in the global semiconductor ecosystem. Next slide. So this I mentioned just now. I don't think I need to elaborate so much on this, on how semiconductors are often referred to as the brain of modern electronics because of their integral role in countless devices we use daily, from the moment we wake up to the time we go to bed. Right? So their universal presence, ubiquitous and universal presence, highlight the importance of a secure and resilient supply chain for both Malaysia and the global economy. So recognizing this, our National Semiconductor Strategy, or NSS, aims to strengthen our capacity to produce these vital components, ensuring we remain at the forefront at this indispensable industry. Next slide. So today, I think everybody knows about this. So before I explain the nuts and bolts of our NSS, our National Semiconductor Strategy, I wish to just briefly explain why the government and MITI are doing this, and also why we need to act fast, right? So global tensions and global supply chain disruptions have created a critical but small window of opportunity for Malaysia's E&E industry. So what has started as a trade tension between US and China has evolved into a technology war, as you can see there, impacting global semiconductor supply chains. And the COVID-19, of course, has also exposed global supply chain vulnerabilities, highlighting the need for resilience as well as diversification. Right? So many MNCs are therefore diversifying their manufacturing locations to secure their supply chain. So this current dynamic presents Malaysia with a once-in-a-generation opportunity to strengthen our E&E industry, particularly in the companies, we talk about +1, and we've seen this flow coming into Southeast Asia because they want to ensure of the economic security and the supply chain resilience. So we can leverage, especially in this industry, with our mature industrial and infrastructure, with good connectivity, good rule of law, strategic location, and ease of doing business to further integrate. We want to integrate ourselves into the global semiconductor value chain. So this is a crucial moment for Malaysia, and we must seize this moment to ensure resilience and growth in our E&E sector. Next. So this is our competitive advantage, especially in OSAT, right? Given the unique opportunities presented by current geopolitical and supply chain dynamics, it is important to leverage Malaysia's thriving ecosystem, especially in the OSAT. OSAT is, of course, outsourced semiconductor assembly and test sector. We are well positioned to capitalize on these opportunities thanks to the following factors. One is the ecosystem. We are the 6th largest semiconductor exporter globally and a critical base for many multinational corporations such as Intel, Hitachi, and AMD. And talent, we have highly skilled and educated multilingual workforce, which is important and is a key asset for the semiconductor industries. Incentives, of course, Malaysia range of incentives support both new investment and expansion of existing operations in the industries. So there's various incentives that MIDA can share with you. Infrastructure, we have world-class infrastructure that supports industries. You know about Kulim High Tech Park, there's Bayan Lepas Industrial Zone, there's Batu Kawan, airports, ports, and recently we launched Kigip, many other industrial parks and infrastructure that's available. The other point I'll highlight there is the renewable energy. Renewable energy, we have the National Energy Transition Roadmap, right? We target to make 40% of Malaysia's primary energy mix by 2035 and 100% by 2050. And importantly, this September, the third-party access will be allowed in the national security supply industry. That was important, and that has attracted companies as well. Last but not least, the R&D institutions and universities. So our strong network of research institutions and universities drives innovation and talent development in the semiconductor sector. In fact, I was with the Intel CEO yesterday. They just signed support of 10 million ringgit to universities in Malaysia. I think that yesterday was with USM, for example, for semiconductor training. So we have also doing more with other industries, with our leading universities, to develop a robust pipeline of skilled graduates. Next slide. Next slide. So this at a glance, the global size or market size of the semiconductor. So the Asia Pacific semiconductor market size was estimated at almost $288 billion in 2023 and forecast to reach $612 billion by 2023. So that's a CAGR of 7.8%. And the global semiconductor industry is expected to reach $1 trillion by 2030. So increasing use of latest technology, of course this is AI and IoT, require more and more memory chips that can process huge volumes of data in less time, spurring this semiconductor demand. So this is where the growth prospects are for market players. Therefore, the semiconductor industry needs to be nurtured carefully as the goose that lays many golden eggs for Malaysia. Next slide. So we are confident with our strong foundation in the semiconductor industries, we can transform Malaysia into a true semiconductor powerhouse, not just in assembly, but also in innovation and design. And the NSS, the National Semiconductor Strategy, aims to move up the semiconductor value chain, focusing on higher-end value chain opportunities such as IC design, higher-end or high-end manufacturing, and manufacturing equipment. So Malaysia's current strength, as I mentioned just now, lies in the OSAT segment, which is part of the back end of the semiconductor manufacturing process. We also have companies offer third-party IC packaging and services, focusing on mature node technology. And the global value add of semiconductor design and embedded software is actually around 50%. Fabrication, this includes front-end manufacturing, is around 24%. OSAT, where Malaysia is currently strong, holds only 6%, right? So the electronic manufacturing services segment is not directly applicable to our current strength, but represent an area for future potential growth, right? So we have identified focus areas to move up the value chain. So from there you can see that semiconductor design, we need to enhance our capabilities when it comes to IC design and embedded software, focusing on local companies that work on lower complexity designs. On fabrication, this is tougher, a lot of CAPEX. We're talking about mature node technology greater than 28 nanometer. So to explain our fabrication capabilities, semiconductor manufacturing equipment, this is to focus on niche markets such as testing equipment or precision machining for the OSAT industry. This includes the development of specialized machinery equipment assembly for the semiconductor manufacturing processes. So basically we want to shift from OSAT to higher-end value chain opportunities. So we will encourage local companies to invest and develop IC design capabilities. It's being done, and I've visited some of the parks that's focusing on this. Secondly, we need to attract global semiconductor companies to set up fabrications in Malaysia. Yeah. Thirdly, we need to support the growth of semiconductor manufacturing equipment providers in niche markets. Next slide. So our vision for the NSS is to bridge technology to our shared tomorrow, right? So this underscores our commitment to leveraging semiconductor technology to create a better future for all. So the government firmly believes that the semiconductor industry can play a key role in developing our national, regional, and global economy. So this is why we are dedicated to fostering growth in this sector, ensuring it remains the cornerstone of our economic strategy. Next slide. So what is our vision? Our vision is to become, with our vision of bridging technology for shared tomorrow, now clearly outlined, this slide simply shows the core elements that define our approach to achieving the inclusive technological future that's for the good of all. So Malaysia aims to be a third force champion by fostering technological collaboration between major global powers. As you know, Prime Minister keeps saying we are a neutral power, neutral player, while attracting diverse investment and partnership. So we also plan to be the melting pot of talent, attracting the best minds from around the world, as well as in our country. A dynamic workforce will surely drive our competitiveness and innovation. Our strategy also focuses on connecting current technological capabilities with future innovations to stay ahead of the game and ensure that Malaysia remains a leader in tech advancements that drive future trends. And finally, building a secure and resilient supply chain. This is important for the global semiconductor industry, and we see that Malaysia has a role to play and plays a critical role on this. This involves also enhancing our infrastructure, diversifying supply sources, and implementing robust risk management policies to mitigate potential disruptions. Next slide. So with our commitment to an inclusive technological future, it's important to outline how we plan to achieve these ambitious goals through a pragmatic but yet ambitious strategy. So related to this, we must be aware of a few key facts. One, tech cycles are shortening, which underscores the need for agility and rapid adaptation in our strategy. So we must be patient and strategic based on phased and structured plan, because moving to the frontier of technology is actually challenging. Two, we must focus on specific parts of the value chain. For example, we look at the EVs, for example. So ICE combustion engine, cars use between 600 to 1,500 chips. EVs use approximately 3,000 chips, so highlighting a significant opportunity for semiconductor growth in the sector. So these chips, of course, is known as the power chips, are also key in energy transition and decarbonization technology. So I mentioned about NETR, etc. just now. So through the National Industrial Master Plan, through the National Energy Transition Roadmap, we already have the right policies and incentives for companies wishing to manufacture them here. So by targeting growth areas like EVs and energy transition, we can strengthen our position in the semiconductor value chain. And three, we must build a sustainable and sticky ecosystem in three phases. I'll explain in the next slide. Next slide. So phase one, we want to build on the foundations that we already have. It's all about building on our existing strengths and capabilities in the semiconductor industries. I don't think I need to explain this slide, which is self-explanatory. On phase two, we need to, as we build the foundation in phase one, phase two of our strategy focus on moving to the frontier of semiconductor technology. So in terms of pursuing cutting-edge technology and moving up the value chain, we can attract FDI and domestic DDI in advanced chip manufacturing. Yeah? And when I say FDI, it's from leading firms like TSMC, Samsung, Intel, because their presence here will bring advanced manufacturing capabilities, technology transfer, and also significant economic benefits. We also plan to build local chip champions that can compete globally. So Malaysian companies like Emerton, Pitrox, Opstar, Skychip, Pentamaster that I mentioned just now, have demonstrated excellence in their respective fields. Today, I think the valuation of these companies run into billions of ringgit, and they are well poised to lead Malaysia's semiconductor industry to new heights. And thirdly, we want to develop homegrown users of power chips, which are critical for various high-growth sectors, such as sensors, IoT services, devices, and EVs. So these can create a comprehensive ecosystem that supports both the production and application of advanced semiconductor technologies. So next slide, on phase 3 still, phase 3. So building on phase 2, phase 3 of our strategy is about the boundaries of innovation and establishing Malaysia as a leader at the technological frontier. So we will double down on developing Malaysian firms in semiconductor design, advanced packaging, and manufacturing equipment. All these will help us create a comprehensive and self-sufficient semiconductor ecosystem, which will enable us to attract buyers of advanced chips to pursue advanced manufacturing. So target companies include major companies like Apple, Lenovo, Huawei, which are known for their demand for high-performance chips. So Apple represents significant prospect for Malaysia's semiconductor industry. Lenovo, of course, is a global leader in PC and smart devices, and Huawei, extensive portfolio in telco and consumer electronics, make it an ideal partner for advanced semiconductor manufacturing. Next slide. These are the targets of our NSS. Our first target is to secure 500 billion in combined DDI and FDI in phase 1. This investment will focus on advanced packaging, IC design, manufacturing equipment, and wafer fabs as well. Apart from attracting renowned global players and encouraging our local champions to further expand their operations, MITI and the Ministry of Finance are also inviting investment participation from GLICs and also GLCs. And to further develop the E&E semiconductor ecosystem, the government has allocated 2 billion ringgit, for example, in guarantees via SJPP. This is the one for working capital or CapEx financing, up to 30 million ringgit per company. Additionally, several key capital market initiatives are in the pipeline. This includes our strategic co-investment fund with an initial allocation of 100 million ringgit, which is called COSIF. So COSIF is a public-private co-investment scheme supporting the mission-based projects of the Industrial Master Plan. We provide alternative financing platforms such as equity crowdfunding and also peer-to-peer financing, and this scheme will introduce co-investment ratio for now is about 1 to 4 for the semiconductor sector specifically. And then we want to provide more flexibility for listing on the main market. So the Securities Commission will facilitate startups and early-stage semiconductor companies to tap funds from the public market earlier in their life cycle. So this allows eligible companies to list on the main market prior to achieving operating revenue or cash flow from operations. And then the Securities Commission's 5-year MSME and MTC roadmap is also there, aim to facilitate listing of companies under Industrial Master Plan priority sectors, including mid-tier companies and the SMEs, integral in the overall supply chain. So to encourage the listing of more global companies on Malaysia Stock Exchange, the ST will inform us that they will also allow the creation of dual-class shares for companies incorporated in Malaysia. Our second target is to create 10 Malaysian companies in design and advanced packaging. So revenues ranging from 1 billion to 4.7 billion ringgit, which is about 210 million US to 1 billion US. We also target to create 100 plus high revenue companies, high revenue meaning above 1 billion ringgit, so that they can create higher wages and more job opportunities to Malaysians. The third target is to make Malaysia a global semiconductor R&D hub, so featuring world-class universities, corporate R&D centers, centers of excellence to drive innovation and tech advancements, and we also try to attract top talent and leading global companies to Malaysia. And next, we aim to train 60,000 high-skilled Malaysian engineers. This is crucial for sustaining the growth of the semiconductor industry and ensuring Malaysia remains competitive globally. We will partner with educational institutions and industry leaders to provide comprehensive training programs. As I mentioned, this has already started, but MIDA will also be empowered to make decisions on the Returning Experts Program, REP, and Resident Past Talent Program. So MIDA can share with you more later. The fifth target is to allocate at least 25 billion ringgit for operationalizing the NSS. This will support various initiatives and projects outlined in the strategy. There's about the breakdown. Again, I'm not sure whether we'll show it here, but the initial breakdown covers infrastructure all the way to software. Slide 20. Next slide. So this is our track record. So because I know many of you here are always skeptical. So before you put on your skeptical hat, you can see some analysts here. Let me share with you that the National Semiconductor Strategic Task Force will periodically review the progress and track the implementation of the strategy. So provide updates on new tech advancements and market conditions, and provide insight into the future trends. So why should you believe us? Let me share some numbers on our execution initiatives with you. Although these relate more to investments, this slide shows that the National Committee of Investments approved about 2,400 manufacturing projects from the year 21 to 23, of which more than 1,800 projects have been implemented. So the implementation rate is around 75%. The breakdown projects is as per the slide. Please take note that from any number of approved investments, there will always be a small number of projects that will not proceed due to several reasons, such as the companies themselves change their strategic direction or their priorities. In our case, such projects make up less than 1.5% of total projects approved. So in short, we will ensure that execution will always be our strong point. Next slide, which is our last slide. So in closing, our mission is clear and forward-looking, right? We want to be a leading partner, collaborator, and driver of the global semiconductor industry and beyond, to build technology for the greater good. So in summary, this will involve advancing and democratizing technology to ensure that our tech advancement benefits will contribute to more inclusive and equitable world. So we need to navigating the geopolitical shifts where Malaysia is positioning ourselves as the most neutral and non-aligned location for semiconductor production, uniquely positioned to help to build a secure and resilient supply chain, global supply chain. So we welcome everyone, companies, investors, financing institutions, to join us in this transformative journey towards a more inclusive, resilient, and impactful semiconductor future for Malaysia and for the world, and invest in Malaysia's semiconductor and reap the rewards of a thriving tech industry. So basically partner Malaysia and Bursa to unlock a future of mutual success. So thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Now, I would like to invite Yang Berhormat Tengku Zafrul to please have a seat for our Q&A session. And to moderate this session, I would like to invite Mr. Tan Jae Yang, Senior Analyst at Hong Leong Investment Bank, to join him on stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jae Yang, and I will be moderating today's panel discussion on NSS. Firstly, I would like to thank YB for joining us today.
At this opportunity, I encourage all to actively engage the discussion by asking questions and sharing your thoughts. Now,
without further ado, let me start with the first question. YB. NSS will be focusing on three parts of semiconductor supply chain, namely design, OSAT, and equipment. However, I realize there is a missing puzzle, which is a wafer fabrication or foundry. And countries around the world are putting great emphasis on this. Don't you think that we need the likes of TSMC and global foundries on our shores too?
Thank you. As I briefed just now, as I explained on the slides, we do need to move up the value chain, and this is an opportunity for us to do so. There's a shift in global supply chain when it comes to semiconductor because of the tech war between US and China. We're seeing companies reallocating, redesigning their supply chain. But at the same time, we also need to know where we are in that so-called cycle. Right? So we have been very strong in the back end, but in terms of value add, as I showed just now, around 5 to 6%. We move, the biggest is on the IC design. Well, half of that is on IC design, software design, etc. And this is where we think we have also comparative advantage. You see the likes of Pfizer and a few others that's coming in. There's another one from France, which we haven't announced yet. And even Global Foundries, you mentioned, they actually have moved to Penang to manage their operations virtually, operations in Europe and US from Penang. So it's moving to that direction. But what we need to also be mindful is the fact that this, if you want to move straight to wafer fabrication, instead of doing step by step, is what we're doing phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Not forgetting that advanced packaging is also important, and it's also a complex process. And again, we have a competitive advantage there. But to move straight to that advanced packaging requires very high capex, right? So this is, like Satyasi, will also require a lot of support, government support, fiscal support, which we may not have that fiscal space at this point in time, right? If you look at the announcement by other countries, their fiscal support sometimes up to 75%. I think India was about 50, right? That's your, yeah, sorry, India is 75%. That means for every RM1 the company puts in, I think that company was Micron. 20, is it? It was announced by India. I think they mentioned Micron, so I don't know. But whatever that company is, there's an early move advantage they give. And then I think many other companies will probably get similar. Similarly, for Malaysia, for us, we need to be aggressive, but we need to be at the same time using our competitive advantage, right, of where we are today in semiconductor vertical.
Thank you, IB. Before I open it to the floor, let me have another question. Malaysia wants to quote at least 500 billion of investment in phase 1 with DDI as well as FDI, focusing on wafer fabs and manufacturing equipment. Are there any potential local and global companies that government is looking at currently?
Local companies? So I mentioned a few, but we of course leave it to the private sector to drive this. Government has not had a good experience in this sector. I think one being Cetera, as you all know, but it's been sold to a local player, and they've done it well, right? So I think when we spoke to the GLICs, they are looking at opportunities to support the local ecosystem that is supporting the multinationals, rather than run it, but support it in terms of investments coming in. And we presented the whole ecosystem that is in Malaysia today. We had 2 workshops actually with them. I attended one of them where all the governing company involved. In fact, second workshop we were doing it with the private sector so that people understand, because the whole supply chain involves thousands of companies actually, right? That are involved supporting these MNCs, and mainly local companies are actually involved in the supply chain. The one that I mentioned today was, of course, those that are listed, and those that are listed are already in the billions in terms of their market cap. And most of them, EPF say they have shareholding in already. But what we want is to also make sure that the early stage, right, because this is where the financing gap is for Malaysia, is the startup, the early stage financing, where you look at the success of these companies, they were entirely mostly on their own, right? Before they become mid-tier company, that's where they got more support. That's why financing also is important. The various guarantee schemes that we announced at the NSS will also help. So people like Hong Leong hopefully will be, their risk appetite is very low, right? So with the SJPP coming in, taking some of the risk, Jim Ling, maybe you can convince your credit committee chaired by, who will be more appreciative of the opportunities in this area. So it needs a whole of nation support, because to expect the entrepreneur to be successful, yes, they can, but to accelerate the success in government funds, local funds, financiers, regulators, policymakers, all have to. That's why the NSS tries to show that, look, we have a plan here, right? And this plan is a live document, so we can always put in new areas or new policies to make sure that continues to be relevant. It has to be, because in this sector you need to be very agile and dynamic in our approach.
Thank you, YB. Any question from the floor?
Is it? Oh, you're just standing up. That's so fast. Okay, thank you. Have to go back to.
Hi, good afternoon, YB.
Thank you.
So Malaysia, we recorded an all-time high approved investments last year, 330 billion, I believe. And you know, we have also seen that in the last 2 months, there's been a couple of foreign tech giants committing planned investments into Malaysia, which I believe is to the tune of about close to 30 billion ringgit. Now, for this year, what is your targeted approved investment number that you intend to hit? And what proportion of this is expected to come from the semiconductor-related industry, or E&E in broader terms?
So I think I understand it is easier. So to this year, last year, you're right, the total investment approved is around 329.5 billion ringgit. That's approved investments, of which nearly 80% is actually E&E sector. It's big, right? That's why we are confident of that 500. In fact, I told the MIDA team, I think you are, being too conservative. But this year, first quarter is up 13% already. We announced 3 days ago, about 84 billion ringgit, of which half is also from the E&E sector, right? And when you look at the breakdown of that E&E sector, of course, big chunk of it is on the manufacturing side, where foreign investments is higher, right? But in total investments-wise, domestic is also increasing. 329.5, the recent quarter, the first 3 months growth, 55%, 56, 57% actually, is the foreign investment, the rest are domestic investment. So what is our target? Of course, our target this year we have not announced yet, we are still looking at it. What is approved investment for last year was a record year, and for me to commit on behalf of MIDA, we're still working on it. Of course, every year they said they can't meet the target, but then they always surpass the target. And most of you who are running companies and running budget always undersell when you go to the board, right? So similarly, the number that MIDA has given to me, I cannot accept for the moment. So that's why I think it's lowballing.
Any chance you can share on that number, YB?
But you can see, no, I don't. We have not agreed to the number because it's grown. I say wait for first quarter, then we discuss. And you saw the first quarter is already up 13%. So how can it be flat, right? so that's my, so it has to grow to me, right? It has to grow at least. There should be a positive correlation with the growth in GDP, right? So if this year's growth of 4 to 5%, we should have at least one-time GDP growth, right? So that's my can't be growth. But of course, we can see from the pipeline of projects, it looks very strong. And I think you've seen this quarter, there's a few major announcements also, right? So some are approved, some are yet to be approved. Those that have yet to be approved, I think we must make sure it's approved as soon as possible, because approval means approval all the way up down to the local council, tenaga, water, etc. It takes time sometimes, so we need to push that through to get to a stronger target this year. So at least one time GDP.
Thanks, YB.
Thank you. You can sit down.
Assalamualaikum. I'm Najah from KAF. So my question is regarding the skill working engineers, 60,000 I think.
Yes.
So I wonder, this is for my friends lah, because most of them graduate from engineering studies, but most of them haven't got a job because they are not experienced enough. And so my question is, how do you want to solve like these graduates, because I think they are very intelligent, because when I was primary, they can already go to robotics competition, they can already apply all these IoTs, everything since early age. But now they cannot, and they are like being, I'm not sure, tangguh their skill, talent. So what programs could they maybe serve to get this kind of job,
Okay. So I think one thing we must recognize, and some of the industry players in this room also recognize, is that the global is a global shortage. So it's not just a Malaysia shortage for semiconductor sector in particular. So let's zero down to Malaysia. So Malaysia today, there are a few challenges even when it comes to getting engineers to work in this manufacturing sector. So I'm sure you have, people in this room have many friends who are engineers but don't practice, right? Once they graduate, I know when I was in CIMB, many of my senior management are even engineers, and and even in the quants department, in the treasury, there are many engineers involved. So you will lose some of that even as you graduate. So there's left with engineers who want to continue to practice. And you are right, some of the industries today, before, requires not just a basic degree when it comes to it, but they want them to have the relevant skill set. So this is where I mentioned just now, we need to get industries to match the skill set that they require and have the training provided to the universities, or when they want to open the factory, we can get them ready. So if you have friends, we have to press our agencies here, right? You're here, Dr. Sri Wong. So we are trying to make sure that this is done more methodologically rather than ad hoc. So that's why we have that target, and we are talking to industries to make sure that they get the right. So if your friends wants to do this, interested, just tell them to us, because there is definitely a lot of interest.
So they have to go to the MSIA, NCR, the voice for.
Can see me. Can send resume to Dr. Sri Wong. Yeah.
And
are you one of them?
No. I'm an analyst.
Sometimes people say friend, but
So, and another thing about the IC design, the 50% IC design, why do you target the Malaysia can actually maybe achieve that market share, I think?
Yeah, so this table basically breaks down the value. So right now where we are, when we do the semiconductor, manufacturing and semiconductor design, most of the thing is at the front end, and the semiconductor design is 50% of the global value share. So let's say for every $1 you produce for semiconductor, only 6 cents is in the back end. Big cent is in the IC design and embedded software. So that's where we want to go, right? So instead of exporting 6 cents, you're exporting 56 cents. So then our GDP will go, and your salary can be higher. So, but back to why 50% is because if we look at where we are today, there are many Malaysians who are already involved in the IC design space, in Taiwan especially, in US, UK, even in Malaysia. Maybe not towards the higher end of IC design, but there are a lot of opportunities there. And it is about talent at the end of the day. We can try and attract as many talents. It doesn't require as much on CAPEX. Today, when it comes to IC design, many of our companies are on the lower complexity design, so we want to move up. So we met up with a few of the players who are based in France, even in Taiwan, who is coming here. I think one is Datuk, who also met the Prime Minister last week, saying that many of his people are also Malaysian. So they need time, they need 2 to 3 years to train the engineers, and that one is for the memory IC design, right? So there are many other parts of IC designs of the semiconductor that we can do. And the local companies, through our local talent, we want to make sure within 2 to 3 years we are able to build it up on what we have.
It would be great if my friends can move towards the IC design, so they can already done that,
Yeah, so you can. That's why Dr. Sri Wong is here. So please give me. In fact, for Pfizer, they just had an interview. 400 people went for the interview, but they only took few. But I'm sure your friends, you can give and tell them about this and coordinate with MITI and Chris or MSIA yourself. We can help out.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure there's a lot more questions, but I'm afraid we are short on time.
We have to go back to Parliament.
Yep. Thank you, YB, for your enlightening words and for sharing your invaluable insight with us today. If you could remain on stage while we invite Datuk Umar Swift and Ms. Lee Jim Ling to present our token of appreciation to Yang Berhormat Tengku Zafrul. Please remain on stage. Now I would like to invite the rest of the speakers to join Yang Berhormat Minister on stage for a group photo. Please give our speaker a round of applause. Now, if I could invite everyone to stand and move to the center of the room for a group Wi-Fi. For photographers and media personnel, could you please come on stage and assist us in taking the photos? Yeah. Could everyone move to the center of the room, please? Thank you.